On this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County Podcast, our guest is Gabriel Smith, the owner of AnimNation in Clayton, North Carolina. We talked to Gabriel about what he does, which is 3D animation, and his time working with DreamWorks on the Kung Fu Panda game that came out a few years ago. We also talked to him a little bit about what he does, how he helps local businesses animate their brand, and how he can help you. So listen in.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden. And on today's episode, we have Gabriel Smith, owner of AnimNation production company, and they make animated 3D graphics and all kinds of little characters and stuff. And it's going to be a fascinating conversation. I don't quite understand it, but he did work on the Kung Fu Panda Showdown game as the lead animator. So if you've ever seen that game, you kind of know what we're going to talk about. And he's got a business right here in Clayton, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what he does and how he can help your business animate. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask you to like, follow, subscribe to this podcast wherever you see it, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, or any of the other social media channels of the Best Johnston County Podcast. The Best Johnston County Podcast comes out every single Monday, and it has now for over 2.5 years. So we're well over 120 episodes now. We have a lot of great guests. So go back and listen to some of our previous episodes. We had Barry Woodard, owner of Hometown Realty, a few weeks ago. We've had the vast majority of the county commissioners. We had Sheriff Steve Bizzle. We had Just Dog People. We had Blue Line K9 Dog Training. These are all great podcasts where I guarantee if you go back and listen to it, you'll learn a little bit about the businesses, the people behind the businesses, and Johnston County. Welcome, Gabriel.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we met a few weeks ago at Launch Joco, where you're going through the Launch Joco program. As a seasoned business, a lot of the businesses there are new. So anyway, but I was completely fascinated by what you did, mainly because I can't do it. I don't have an artistic bone in my body, and I find all of that stuff neat. I like video games and stuff like that. So anyway, so tell the audience who you are and what you do.
Yes, I'm Gabriel Smith, owner of AnimNation Productions. We do 3D animation, motion graphics, and design. We also have a music studio where we do voiceover work as well. And we're just trying to get businesses, liven up their brands and have a bigger impact on social media.
Okay, so how'd you get into this? I know you're from Raleigh. I know you taught at Central for a while. I don't know where you went to school, but how did you end up here doing this?
Yeah, well, when I actually started getting into animation my second year at North Carolina Central University, I accidentally put in the making of Toy Story 2. And so I was watching that and I was like, oh, this is something I can do. So I immediately went to my guidance counselor at North Carolina Central, and they said, we don't offer 3D animation here. So unfortunately, I didn't graduate there. I had to transfer, went throughout my career, and then 20 years later, ended up coming back and teaching. So I became the guy that I needed.
So where did you learn 3D animation at?
So I went to the School of Communication Arts in Wake Forest. They're no longer open.
Okay.
It was a private school that focused on all the elements of 3D animation.
Okay. All right. So when you come out, what are some of the things did you get a job? What did you start working on? How did you sort of begin to hone your craft?
Absolutely. So actually one semester before I graduated, I linked up with this other local studio it was called Charlie Break Iron Animation Studios and Design. And he really took me under his wing. And that was the first time I saw someone run an animation studio out of their home. And I was like, wow, okay, you don't have to have all this overhead. I learned a lot from Charlie. And then just going into the industry, there was another guy, Eric Peterson, that really gave me a really bigger picture on entrepreneurship. And so it made me transition from being in the game industry to starting my own business. All right.
So I know what I talked about earlier. How did you end up being from Raleigh, living in Clayton, working with DreamWorks, the largest animation group in the world, arguably the best, yes, on Kung Fu Panda?
All right, so Eric Peterson, he was at the time, right now he's the head of studio at Funcom. They just released the game Doom. Well, I worked under him for a few years at Vicious Cycle, and he's really good at getting production work and publishing titles. So in the game, it's kind of like Smash Brothers, where it's just quick punches and quick kicks. And I didn't want to leave that with just those quick punches and quick. So their opening animation scene was just a flip book. And I went to Eric. I said, Eric, we can't do this. Like, we have to do something fun and cool and animated. So he believed in me. He said, man, let's give it a shot. He helped me set up some. He said, what do you need? I had to ask for models and everything. And because it was like off script from DreamWorks, then he was actually able to take me with him to DreamWorks to get it approved. So we fly out to California. I meet the whole animation team, and they critique my work. And wow, it was a great experience.
What year was that?
Oh man, I was just gonna say mid, like anywhere between 2010, 2012, somewhere.
Okay, I got you.
Exactly.
So you worked for Eric, and y'all
Absolutely.
worked on the Kung Fu Panda game.
Yes. And I was the lead animator there, just taking care of all the character animation, all the rigging that had to be taking place for it. And the rigging is like when you set up the bones inside of the character so they can move. So rigging and animation was.
Well, and you said you needed some models. What kind of models were you working with? Did you have to have like a life-size panda like they used in the movie?
No, not necessarily. So with 3D modeling, they'll have a 3D version of that character of Poe. So they set it up for the game, for the gameplay, but they didn't have anything planned for this animation that I was saying, like, hey, let's get away from this flip book. I need this whole scene. So I told them, like, hey, I need environment models. I need like background, a little hut. I need more character models. And then in that video, you'll see there are these little like puppets that Poe is playing with when he's like attacking. So I needed versions of that. So he really.
So these are all digital things.
All digital.
All right, because I thought you were talking about you actually had like a clay model.
No.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, when I think about a 3D model, I think of like a clay thing,
Sure.
and then I think about video games where they put people in these suits and they've got 20 probes on them and all that stuff.
Yes.
You ever done stuff like that?
Absolutely. My first company. So before I graduated, I actually got hired at Icarus Studios. They hired me as a temp. So it's just like, hey, just temporary. Within 6 months, I became the lead animator at that company, and I ran their motion capture studio. So the whole thing, the whole suit, everything, we did a lot of motions. We did motions for Showtime Dexter, the iPhone game. That was really fun.
Okay.
All those slices and cuts.
Right.
And everything. So yeah, motion capture, not only lead it, but I also did acting as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and animation actually has our own motion capture suits. We have 2 suits. And again, we're learning what I've learned from like Charlie Breakiron, keeping the overhead low. I don't have a robust system. So it's a system that doesn't use any balls. The technology has grown a lot where it's just sensors now.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So I can actually put the suit on underneath my clothes and act the character out. And I've done that at a few trade shows. It was a pretty cool experience.
Oh, that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
People will walk up and they see a character and they're talking to me and they're seeing, oh, the character's also.
Right. You're moving and the character on the screen's moving at the same time.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Man, that's fascinating. Okay. So when did you start your own business and why?
Yeah, so the industry, it was all about creative ownership for me. With the game industry or movie industry, a lot of times where the projects come in, the job is great, you're working, but let's say you're working on cars. Well, when cars 1, 2, and 3 are done, then usually the project is done. You have to go somewhere else. So I really wanted to maintain the ownership and the creativity. Epic Games is somebody that I look up, a company that I look at. They can make any kind of game they want, I feel like, because it's their own game engine. So their engine is what drives their company, not necessarily the games or the products. And so we have some in-house products that we're working on to put out. And so that whole idea of that creative ownership is what made me step out of the industry. But I was in the industry for about 10 years and been running animation for 7 years.
Okay, yeah. Well, you think about Epic Games based in Cary, North Carolina, and you think about all the great games there from Rocket League. And
Fortnite is a big one.
Fortnite, Rocket League. My son still plays Rocket League. And of course, they've sort of mastered the concept of giving the game away, hosting the game on a server.
Sure.
The game is free, but then they sell you things to use in the game.
Absolutely.
Better cars, rocket boosters, different weapons.
Yes.
They create, at least in Rocket League, which is basically soccer with cars in a futuristic arena that looks like something out of Star Wars, and your goal is to get the car to hit this gigantic looking soccer ball into a soccer goal. And they have leagues and competitions, and you're playing live, and then there's a scoreboard, there's ranking, and then the season ends about every 90 days, and you have to buy all that stuff again. You got to buy the new rockets, you got to buy the better car, you got to buy, it's an ingenious idea, fascinating. And to think it's right there in Cary, North Carolina, probably the second biggest game making company, one of the top 3 or 4 in America, right here in Cary. So that is fascinating.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So what can you do for small businesses like me? I know I've seen your website. I love Oak City Fish and Chips. We did the digital menu there. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So when I first started the company, I left with a lot of clients already. So I didn't do a lot of promotion. I was doing a lot more corporate stuff. But now I'm transitioning to help more small businesses, mostly with brand identity, making sure that their content is copyrighted and that they own it. And one of my main things that sets me apart are digital avatars and mascots. The simplest way I could put it is I can make the gecko for your Geico.
Right.
And it's really important because no one can, mess with that gecko and use it on any other commercial or anything. You get sued. It's IP.
Right.
So that's what I like to provide. Like, not just animation, but also giving a small business assets that they can control and use. And then they also build relationships so we can grow with them. And if their brand change, we have everything that they need and all their assets, and we can grow with them.
Now, I know Oak City, you did their menu board.
Yes.
As far as that's concerned, what other types of things you showed me? And we can't show this on this podcast or YouTube, but go to his website. You showed me a dog on a business card, and you made the dog come alive, walk around, lick something, and then come back into the spot on the business card. What is that? Explain that. How can that help somebody?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was called Fat Dog Laser, and they make awards and statues, a bunch of different items that people can use. And so I met the owner through Tech Factory Productions, and they were looking for a way to spruce up their branding. And their branding is based off of their golden retriever. So bringing it to life, we're like, okay, well, let's take pictures of your golden retriever, and we made their actual mascot in 3D, and we made it so that it can come in and out of the logo, and they can come back and use that asset as many times as they want to. But it was a really good way to, make them look different online and bring their mascot to life.
Now, is that for their website? Is that for their banner ads? I mean, where does this dog go?
Yeah, that would be more on social media. So they would use that to promote their services and businesses. So I do not only promotional videos that we can do for small businesses, but also training videos, in-house training. So we also do explainer videos and in-house training videos for companies. So they can train their employees.
Right. So the avatar is teaching people
absolutely.
whatever the employees need to learn.
Yes.
So it's more engaging for employee training.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Much better than me standing there talking for an hour using my iPhone, handing up sheets of paper. That's how I train my staff.
Absolutely. I think I get a lot of that from business owners. They always saying like, I have to always repeat the process over and over and over again. I get a new client, I have to explain it to them over again. Well, doing these videos are a great way to not only have a random mascot, but I can also create you in 3D as well. So you could be actually delivering the message with your voice, with a 3D character of your own. And you can save a lot of time as a business owner, not having to repeat that information to every new client you meet or every new customer.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, that thing with the dog, and that's their dog.
Yes.
Right. So, to go up and I thought that was pretty neat because, I know what I'm trying to describe this, people driving down the road listening to this, but literally the picture of the dog is the logo for the business. Yeah. And in this thing, the dog comes out of the logo, runs around, goes back to the logo. But that's going to draw your attention more than just seeing a picture of a dog in a static logo. And that's basically what you were trying to do.
Absolutely. Scroll stopping. That's what I call it.
Right. That's right. So Now, why should I hire Gabriel Smith when AI will do whatever I want?
That's true. I think the biggest difference when you work with an animation studio is when you AI really just regurgitates what's already out there. It just looks at what other people have already done, existing work, and then they bring it. Then it kind of spits out, almost the same thing. Multiple people can put in the same prompt and get the same result. With a studio, we can stay more on, branding, under branding guidelines, and make sure that, we adhere to all your branding guidelines that your company needs. With AI, you cannot copyright a lot of that stuff. So sometimes it's good for like random promotional videos, and it's a great tool. Like, I'm actually an advocate of it. I use AI in my tool set as well. But when it comes down to brand identity and actually controlling an IP, and you're a serious company and you take your brand serious, you want to have something created by a human, so you can go and copyright it and protect it the right way.
Right. So if I hire you, you're going to give me the copyright if you create it.
Absolutely.
So I will own whatever I pay you for.
Absolutely. And we set up contracts for that as well. So upon approval, you will, the ownership gets turned over to that company. And not only that, I love it that way because we look at it as building assets for the company, not just creating a one-off video. We create assets that you can reuse and reuse. So for example, with a 3D avatar, you would only pay to have that avatar created once. And there's no return, or you don't have to keep paying over for that avatar. But then you just say, okay, where do you want the avatar now to be? Where do you want it to say now? Just like that gecko for Geico, all the different locations, but the asset is always there and it's always owned by the company.
Well, that's pretty neat. Well, and the other thing is when you're doing it, and I don't know how many, I've know way too much about branding and marketing, having grown the Breeden Law Office, but sure. I spent a lot of time, I have a marketing team, and the color scheme is crucial, right? Crucial. It needs to be consistent. The messaging needs to be consistent and the coloring needs to be consistent. And AI is not going to be able to make the coloring consistent and probably isn't going to get the font right. Absolutely. And I never thought about any of this, but the more I've studied it, and the more we've developed our brand assets here at the Breeden Law Office, I have begun to realize just how important that is.
Yes, the consistency is very important, especially when you're dealing with customers that want to trust your brand. They want to keep seeing that consistency, that all that messaging, even if you're not right in front of the camera speaking, that messaging is in that branding, in that color. And you're absolutely right. The AI is going to spit something slightly different every time. And then not only that, someone else can put a similar prompt in and get the same result. So, you miss out on that human uniqueness that you get with the studio.
Right. Well, you've started this mentoring program. Tell me a little bit about that, what you're doing with that.
Absolutely. So I started teaching at North Carolina Central University, wanting just to give back and, kind of pay it forward, being that person that I needed at that time. And so now what I'm doing is offering some personal training and personal mentorship via Zoom, but I'm also going to be doing courses, online courses that some will be free. And then I also want to be the Epic of Clayton. That's the idea.
Okay.
So Epic is in Cary, you have Red Storm in Raleigh. And, I want to really get out there and make some impact with the community, holding some, hopefully some community events where I can reach high school students and early college students that are interested in the 3D animation and really, honing in like, hey, this is a career that you can have. And it's not just making video games. It's, it's a wide range of things that you can do.
Right. Well, Wake Tech has a video game making major, I think. You get a 2-year degree in it. Absolutely. I don't exactly know what it is, but I know Wake Tech has it.
Yeah, absolutely. The industry is definitely growing. And yes, Wake Tech has a really good program. NC State has a good program as well. But there's not a lot of community activity. So more so like, hey, if that's what you want to do, then you know exactly where to go.
Right.
But there's no real awareness, like especially in Clayton. There's no really like hub for it.
Okay. All right. So how can people reach out to you and see some of your work? Your website is absolutely fascinating. You should go visit it. What is the website?
Yes, it's AnimNation.com. It's ANIM-nation.com. And you can get all to my social media right there from that website.
Right. You're on LinkedIn as well.
Absolutely.
Under Gabriel Smith, I think. Right. Yeah, no. Any other ways people, they can make an appointment to meet with you and see if you can help them right there on your website, right?
Absolutely. Right on the website, you can book. We do free consultations where we just sit down, talk about your goals, what your business stands for, get a nice background on your company before brainstorming some ideas and working with you to, just liven up your brand and make it move, come to life.
That's pretty cool. So the last question we ask everybody on this podcast, what do you love most about Johnston County?
What I love most about Johnston County really is waking up in the morning and hearing all the birds in my backyard. I love it. I mean, the nature. Like growing up in Raleigh, it's not like New York City,
right?
But it's far enough away from Raleigh where you get that open country feel, and those birds, I just can't get enough.
Can't get enough of the birds, right? There's still country parts of Johnston County, and it's not the suburban. I mean, it's coming that, but it's not quite like Raleigh. I understand what you're saying.
I love it. The small town feel is just great. I love how Clayton is growing, but still maintaining the small town feel. I think that's a great balance. They're doing a good job with that.
They are. Well, look, we would like to thank Gabriel Smith of AnimNation. I did say that right, for being our guest on this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County Podcast. As we mentioned earlier, please like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you can see it. Wherever you see it, whether on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, or Instagram, or any of the other social media channels of Best Johnston County Podcast. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review down below and tag us in your Instagram stories, Best of Johnston County. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.